Oh, what's
everybody.
up? I thought I was at the club on the
Sorry
Friday.
for the.
I
I know, right? You had to end the day right.
was like, yo, man,
But
I'm about to get
yes.
my church card pulled, man. The church people gonna be calling for me, man.
Oh my Lord. But yes, we are here. We are here. Thank y'all so much for coming through. And we talking about sharing your vulnerability on your terms. So this is all about Carl. We're gonna do a nice little interview. And we want to understand his perspective, especially transforming clicks to profit. It's not just a podcast about how to make money from your website. It's about how to create a community, how to create a conversation and use your
Absolutely.
website as that foundation for your marketing because marketing is about a conversation. It's not just about, hey, buy this. It's
Yeah,
about
bodies.
understanding who you are and allowing people to meet you where you are. So I just want to say thank y'all for coming through. And of course, Carl, let the folks know who you are. Please introduce yourself.
Y'all know me, Mr. AKA Mr. Vulnerability. I am Carl Shawn Watkins to give you the correct and formal introduction. CEO of Carl Shawn Watkins Consulting. We are a coaching and consulting firm, and we coach and consult in the DEI arena, right? I empower leaders to embrace their vulnerability and to overcome their fears primarily and to overcome those self-limiting beliefs that we all have, and I teach them to be better leaders. And how I do that through strategically and intentionally letting you know how vulnerability could be a superpower. So I'm excited to be on this show with you guys, with you
Yes,
today. I'm on your show.
thank
What that be like?
you.
What that be like?
I know. And I think this is full circle because when I was coming into this whole arena of
Yes.
live streaming,
When I
you
brought you in
had
the
your
live team
show
street.
and you
Yeah,
brought me in and you did I think one of my first interviews, not my first, but one of my first
yeah,
interviews was with
yeah,
you and I
yeah.
got used to everything. So I wanted
Absolutely.
to ask you from that perspective, your whole journey has been about allowing people to see you as vulnerable, especially from a male perspective. Because a lot of times, women, we're encouraged to be a little vulnerable. We're encouraged to be open, and I'll say it's there. It could be a different conversation, but Black women experience that conversation differently. So, from a Black male's point of view, and especially from a male's point of view, how
Mhm.
has the vulnerability conversation been? Because I know your whole initiative is to change the conversation and change the narrative of what that looks like for men, especially. So, how has that been?
It's fairly easy now, and I always say not the foundation of what I've started because I started this over 30 years ago and talking about it, but it has really culminated to a fact of a lifelong journey, and now it's sort of like when you plant something. After a while, it takes some watering, it takes some tendering, some toiling, then it starts to grow. The pandemic produces the growth and what I've been talking about. What it did was just manifest everyone to embrace their vulnerability. And regardless of whatever stage or point or place you were in, the change in your life made you do that. It reprioritized a lot of things for people. LinkedIn was just really the avenue for that. And it gave me an opportunity to manifest a lot of things that I've been saying in the solace of the Fortune 100 companies I work for. Now I was able to say that to the world on a platform that can be received by millions. And that's really what elevated me to the set of saying, change the narrative. Here's an opportunity that you've been talking about, kind of like backdoor for such a long period of time because you only talked about it in the meetings and you only talked about it to your coworkers and you didn't have the avenues in which to expand your reach. So now I have that avenue. I have that. I create my own shows. I do my own things. I talk about my own perspective and I put it out there. And changing the narrative with the pandemic as my open door was really the gateway to start talking about it. And on the men's side of that, it's a tremendous thing and it's a tremendous power that most men are primarily overlooking. They really are, especially in the growth of leadership. That when you're able to be humble and vulnerable in what you're doing, that does not subtract from you being the powerful man that you are. And it definitely does not subtract or minus from the accomplishments that you've achieved doing what you do. And when you're standing in your boldness enough to understand that, then you'll really see the appreciation for what you're trying to get, pushing people to say that you're a leader. So that's it in a nutshell.
Yes, and I know for me it was a little bit of a struggle. Not a little, it was a
Hmm.
lot. It was a big struggle. to say that, I was being vulnerable because, from my standpoint, being, especially being a woman, you always saw vulnerability was transformed or translated into emotional,
Hmm.
very, very tearful. There was always a point in your story where you broke down, or you had like that. Oh, I just went through this horrible, horrible thing, and now I'm back. But not all vulnerable moments are very horrific or very traumatizing. And I think that's where a lot of that, you kind of pieced that together for me and allowed me to see that vulnerability comes in different stages and different forms. So how has that been in terms of people receiving that information and saying, "Oh, okay, now it's clicking for me. Now it's connecting." How has that been for you to see that game changing happening?
It's really been the event of just sharing that among each other. For so many times we've kept things close to the vest, but now you can just about see the manifestation of vulnerability being shared in just about every post. And it's entering into a realm of not so much as oversharing, but it's into to a realm of where vulnerability is being personalized. And in being personalized, it's letting people see you, not so much of what you've been through, not so much of the things that's maybe that you've always hid because of guilt and shame. What it's allowing people to do now is to go deeper in and say, yo, I was here, I took these steps, and now I'm here. That's all vulnerability is. That's just letting you know that I went through some things. I had some troubles. I had some trials. I did some things to overcome them, and this is what I did. This is what happened when we share the vulnerability because it empowers others, especially those that think they're suffering all alone. It empowers them to say, oh, they can do that. Then maybe I can. Maybe I'm not stuck in the spot I'm in. And we have their opportunity to do that. I really consider it a responsibility because if I'm not sharing my overcoming, someone is drowning in what I overcame. So if I don't share that with people, there's no relief to some people. Some people you're going to be, I would like my grandma just say, you're going to be the only person. She used to tell me in church. She said, "Boy, if you know Christ," she's like, some people only gonna know Christ through seeing you, because they ain't gonna come to no church, they ain't gonna read no Bible. So she's like, your actions, your character, how you carry yourself. She said that's gonna be the only way they see Christ, and that's how I think of it with me. If I'm showing my vulnerability, the only way that they're gonna think that it's positive and it's okay to do or embrace is by seeing how I do it myself.
Yeah, and because you're so adamant about doing what you say and being the actual active, visible example, I think that has also allowed people to connect with you even on a deeper level, because you have what, 16,000 people that
I
you
have
connected
quite,
with.
I have quite a
I'm
few people.
like, you have just jumped leaps and bounds. And
Yes.
when did you really start getting active on LinkedIn for you to start seeing those numbers rise?
Um, my LinkedIn birth date is July something 2008. You can say, wow, that's a long time. Okay, my active birthday was March 2020, 2020. That's when I became active. And active is just what that means. For so many times, I sat on LinkedIn with, I had a system of check 3 days, check on Monday, check on Wednesday, check on Friday. Post a job on Monday, see how I did Wednesday, post again on Friday. That was kind of like my system, right? It's strategy or whatever you want to call it. That's what I had. But again, I push it back to the pandemic. The pandemic allowed me to work from home. It gave me freedom to operate in a place where I was not before. And it gave me an opportunity to kind of work on some of the things that I wanted to do. It gave me a time to retrospect and inspect, evaluate, and see where was I going. Was I really doing the things I wanted to do, or was my busyness just me running to a job 70 hours a week? Was my busyness just me going and doing the sports with the kids, eating in the car on the way? Or was my busyness really affecting and impacting change in the people that knew me? And I think once I sat down at the table and wrote down because I love to write, wrote down my list, pros and cons, whys and why not, do's and don'ts. I started to realize that there's a lot of things on the don'ts that I've been doing for such a long time. And that's when I sat with myself and I had that conversation and say, okay, Carl, who you want to impact? Why are you doing this? Why are you even here? It became to me as a legacy thing. What are you going to pass on? I got a son and a daughter. What am I going to give them to carry on? Beside a dad that just worked hard and died, there was something in me that was churning out something more. And that where I sat into my vulnerability self and said, what do I don't know? What do I do know? Let's share those and let's see what people can do.
And you brought up a great example of, we always have these conversations,
Hmm.
and you brought up an example of, you have to sit down with yourself and say, well, what
Yes.
is it that you know, and what is it that you want to share, and ultimately that allowed you not just to be vulnerable with yourself, but be vulnerable with others, and people don't like to hear it, but you had a purpose. And
Hmm.
purpose is always part of a strategy. You don't like Most don't like the word strategy, but it is. It's a legitimate thing. Life, you have to live life through some type of a strategy. How do you want to live your life? How do you want to allow other people to enter your life? Because that way you can put up boundaries. You know what you will and won't do, what you will and won't put up with. So all of that to say, you've really started to make a mark for not just yourself, but allow others that safe space, that safety zone where they can be vulnerable, especially on a platform like LinkedIn. It's not easy, a platform where, and I was just like you. I think I did my LinkedIn in college, and I dust it off every now and then. Who else is here? Oh, y'all doing the same thing? Okay, I'm out. And it was literally a lot of people just resharing links to articles, and is the article important, is it interesting? And then I would follow other people's suggestions saying, hey, jump in groups. I would go to these groups that looked like they had a lot of people, but they were dead. They had like thousands of people, but
Hmm.
they were dead. They weren't doing anything. So it became a point of, what is LinkedIn? Is it really social media? Is it just for work? But then, of course, if you're on here and you're active, will people at your job snitch on you and say, hey, we saw you on LinkedIn? Because you knew when somebody was active on LinkedIn, they were looking for a
Yes.
job. That was
Yeah.
always the assumption. They're looking for a job.
Yeah.
But more and more, especially since the pandemic started, a lot of people really came back to LinkedIn for connections. And because at that point nobody's hiring you, everybody off work. Or not off work, but most people were home. And if you had a job, you were trying to retain the job from
Hmm.
home. Most people who could not do that lost their jobs, or they were put on hold. So it was not a time to really say, I'm doing this hardcore job hunting. So the fact that so many people came back on LinkedIn, and listening to a lot of perspectives, it seems like LinkedIn really became a space for people who were serious about connecting and serious about doing some type of better networking came to LinkedIn. Now, yes, you have Facebook, but usually I always think of Facebook as my family, my friends. That's where I go to, I guess, relax a little bit. Even though I have a
Hmm.
business page on there, I don't go hard on Facebook because I'm like, the most of the people I connected with are my friends. And it's not that they won't buy from me, but they're my friends. Like, I don't see it that way. I don't see myself going to the barbecue pitching like, hey, you need a website. Hey, you need a strategy. Hey, what's going on? Like, I never seen it that way. And I see Facebook as the online barbecue. So that's
Yeah.
how I saw it.
Yeah.
So to see so many people come to LinkedIn, it was more of a, okay, we here for work. Or not work that we don't like. Now is the
Hmm.
opportunity for us to do work we love, right? So for you, how have you noticed or seen that change? How has that really resonated with you and your network?
The authenticity of it is really what really resonates. People like authenticity. They love authentic people, and that resonates with people. Even if they're not being that, they can pick that up that someone is being that, and that draws people to you because everything is so, especially in social media, right? We look at it and it's been given this title, and somebody else gave it to you. I didn't, but it's not social. Social media is not social. It doesn't act as that. I know that may have been the premise, the idea behind those kind of platforms, but it's taken on this connotation of people can hide behind the shadows and throw darts or throw rocks, and you don't know who did it, and you don't know where it came from, and they don't have to explain. And they don't have to do those things that is accountability and responsibility that you normally would have to face if you're in front of someone or if you're working with someone or someone that you're in a relationship with. Those boundaries have been somewhere, they've been blurred. So what do you do to reinstate them? You be authentic, and that weeds all those other things out. And that's pretty much what I did. I just did me. I didn't do anything else, and I didn't corner the market on my technique. uh I just embraced what I was given. Yeah, I've got talent in other areas. Of course, I'm read, I'm articulate, I'm going to school. I get all of these things that, yes, they are external, but the greatest power in using all of those is internal. How do I manifest the usage of all of those talents that I had? And being authentic was really my key. And by that being the core of vulnerability, they kind of worked hand in hand to build trust. And yes, you could go on my network and you can see maybe 13 to 14 almost thousand of them are connections. They're not followers. They're in the followers category, but they are people that I've systematically during the course of these 2+ years, except for maybe the newer ones, have really gotten into, either been on shows, podcasts, done Zooms, had conversations, did DMs, enjoyed their posts. I did networking from a place of authenticity, and that's really where I've seen that it has come to. More people than not are building trust. The relationships are calling people friends who they've never seen in person. And all of this is because we've allowed ourselves to be vulnerable and open and build trust with those that, we just don't, they're not a part of our family. And some people on here, I see them more actually than I do some of my family. I interact with them more than I do with some of my extended family. And this is what has really brought us to power, in the essence of what we're doing now and what's being presented to us, even in this day and age and what we're living in.
I'm just saying. If you guys have not already, you should be taking notes because
Yeah.
the way that vulnerability has been powerful, not just to Carl, but to a lot of those who have heard him, who have connected with him. You actually what do? How many calls a week? You're always on Zoom,
Yeah, I
especially during
have.
the pandemic.
Yes, I had one right before this one, and sometimes they overlap, and sometimes I'll be on my phone or iPad telling one person I'm coming. It's on there. I intentionally began. It's a little bit lighter now because I'm more intrinsic to working and doing more shows and getting more opportunities to get in front of more people. When I first started, I would do 10 a week.
Mm.
And you say that is a lot, right? So during the course of that, and sometimes I would do more than that because some you get a connection and you guys could talk and it becomes lengthy. And some it's just like, hey, you're in my network, man. What do you do? So I could tell somebody about you, that kind of thing. And I've been on some that's been maybe 15 minutes, but I've gotten enough information to see and understand. And not only that, I am, when I use it in the spiritual term, I discern people. So I need to see you. You know what I'm saying? So when I'm seeing you and I'm talking to you, I'm reading you as well. So don't think you sitting in front of me and I'm just like la 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 la. No, not a that. That's not going on. I'm reading the kind of person you are because that's important to me as far as us building a relationship. If I think that you got something that I can use or vice versa, or we're connecting, it's got to be connecting more than just me trying to pitch to you or you pitching to me, which is exactly what I don't do. I don't pitch. I think in any time that you've seen me on any platform here, I have not told you to come and do anything with me. I've given you the opportunity to see me in the fullness of how I operate. And therefore, I intrigue you with what I know and the value I can offer to get you to come on with me and join the journey. That's about as much pitching as I do. So come and join the journey. Let's get started. That's what I love to do. But that's where it's been. And yes, I do a lot of Zooms and they have been beneficial. Not all of them have put money in my pocket, but they have all put experience and knowledge in here. And this is why I
Mm.
continue.
And I would say it's not always the pitch is not the issue. I think a lot of
Hmm.
times it's the timing, because a
Yeah.
lot a lot of people pitch to you and they don't even know you yet, or
Yeah.
and it's not like it's a, hey, so and so told me about you and they told me you needed da 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 da. It's not even that. It's like
Hmm.
almost like cold calling or robo calling. Like you drop in someone's inbox, or you say,
Hmm.
hey, let's connect, and it's just a pitch out the gate. Not even,
Yeah.
hey, I saw you, I like this, I read this, and this is what I liked about this, and that connected. A lot of times, if you just want to connect, then connect. But
Yeah.
now, if you're connecting solely to pitch, that's
Hmm.
where a lot of people on this platform, on LinkedIn especially, have always voiced they don't like it.
Yeah.
And to be with people who are decision makers in their businesses, who are decision makers in corporations, you want to really be careful about how you do that. What's
Yes.
your advice to them? Because I know you talk with a lot of C-suite executives, and you work with them. What's that for you?
Um, a couple of things in there. And one, I want to dispel the myth. I know that it's, well, I won't say dispel because it's some truth to it as well. Um, I've come to find out that C-suite do have time. They do have time. We've under the assumption that they're C-suite. They don't have time to listen. They don't have time. That has just been something that has been categorically placed upon them. And I'm saying that in the essence of, yes, it is true. Some of them carry that aura. Yeah, I'm so busy. What do you want? Yes, that is true. And I think that's more so a shield than anything. That's not even the absolute, it's not even the truth of the matter. I think a lot of it is a shielding of what they want to deal with, what they don't. And they have that opportunity to say, no, I'm busy. But the most ones that I've talked to have engaged me on a level that I have never ran into in corporate while I was in there. And I'm so happy for the opportunity to talk to them and to only not only talk to them, but to hear them. It's like, man, I've been feeling this for so long and I didn't know how to say it. I didn't know how to disperse it. I didn't know, like, I didn't know how it was going to be looked at. You'd be surprised how many conversations I have with people totally just during the course of a week that just come up to me. We begin the conversation talking about what they want to talk. And the next thing you know, it's like they land on the couch talking in front of me, like I'm a therapist, right? I come from that background of hearing because I'm hearing, but I hear a lot with the heart because a lot of people are now talking with the heart because they've been put in places where they can't outthink themselves. They can't fudge their way out of things. They got to be real about things for them to grow and move on. And with that busyness, that kind of like took the shield off a whole lot of stuff. So things is open now. You know what I mean? Just the simpleness of us being able to have a conversation as a family. That was gone before the pandemic. Now we sitting at the table, everybody eating dinner. We don't even have a conversation because we ran our life
Mhm.
for so long, eating in the car, taking Johnny to practice. Oh, I got soccer practice for Billy. Mary got hockey practice. Like we've been going over all of these things. Oh, honey, I got to do overtime. I'm working 60 hours this week. We've gotten away from that. The pandemic pulled all of that off the cover. So now we got to go back to the basics. And this is what I'm seeing from the C suite. And it has nothing to do with the great resignation. I know a lot of people want to say people tired of their jobs or whatever. I think people are just really tired of how things have been. And they're ready
Mhm.
for things to be different than it was. And though they say they want to get back to normal, their normal is not 2019. Their normal is something that is fitting for me, a working mom, single parent. Can I work from home 3 out of these 5 days? These are the things that I'm hearing. Oh, I'm C-suite, but you getting on me because maybe I want to start a family and I'm a woman trying to fight her way and claw up in this area. These are the stories I'm hearing. And through being vulnerability means they're sharing them to me. I got some case studies that I'm working on with some people that is really, when I get the opportunity, we're going to sit, I'm going to record them because I want this to be genuine for them and I'm get their permission to record them because these are stories that people need to hear. And I think this is the moment and the time that we're in. And this is why vulnerability has really soared to a level that you have not seen before. And it's not Brene Brown in her books. Just want to put that out there for you all that's buying it. It's not her in her books. People are really coming to grips with their own self and realizing I've got to make change. I've got to make transformation. How do I make it happen? Come and see me. Oh, I
And
think I
with
think I
that,
I,
because
I
you
pitched right
because you
there. I
came
was supposed to
because
pitch.
you
I pitched.
came just a touch. But you no, but the way you're saying it is, yes, if this is resonating, that's the purpose, for people to see you, come
Yes.
to connect with you, and learn more about how do you do this, because you put together a vulnerability toolkit. And I
Hmm.
remember you were dripping stuff to me, and I was like, "What's this for?" And I appreciate our friendship, because we rough each other up
Yeah, man. I'll tell you,
off
man. I'll tell you,
camera.
man. I'll tell you. I'll tell you. This is like,
So
if
so
any of
by
you
the
guys know
time he
TV, y'all know Martin and Pam. I'm gonna take y'all back to Martin and Pam, right? Y'all know that little relationship that Martin Lawrence and Pam had. That's that kind of thing. But it's all out of love, and I appreciate it 100%.
so I just remember seeing these little it was from photos to, out of nowhere, he'll drop a clip, and he's like, just tell me what this video, tell me how you like. I'm like, what? I was like, what's this for? I
Yes.
think about image and video. By the time it hit image and video 4, I was like, nah, what's this for? Because you don't just drop stuff for nothing. What's going on? What's happening? So you talked
Yes.
about the vulnerability toolkit. I thought it was an amazing experience, and a great project to work on and release to others. So
Yeah.
tell us a little bit of how you came up with vulnerability toolkit, and how have they received this? What have the results been like?
The results have been more than I could have asked for. It's one thing when you're passionate about something and you walk through it and you've seen your journey personally, and you came to a place and said, "Wow!" I mean, because sometimes we walk through things and we don't turn around and see the footsteps that we've taken. And when I say that, I just mean that literally. Just turn around and just go back through. I think it's a song that my grandmother used to say, when I look back over my life and I think these over, I can truly say that I've been blessed, right? That's part of a song she used to sing. And I used to hear that song. And I was like, what do you mean walk back over? Who wants to go back into their life? But as I became an adult and grew, and some things that I've been through and came through, I do look back and I said, wow, I can remember, I can pinpoint dates. This is where I was. I can remember one date that sticks out to me, 1986. And we're all wild flicking Germany, sitting on a tank with a gun saying, I'm going to end it, like 1986. That sticks with me, right? That was the day I was going to commit suicide. Those points and places in our lives, and then we look back now, it's over almost 30 years later, and look where I'm at. Look where I came. Look how many lives I've touched. We don't take that in. We don't absorb that because we're so busy running for the next thing. We're so busy running for the next target, the next KPI, the next bottom line. We don't take time out. And this is what vulnerability allows you to do. It allows you to just sit with substance, which is you, and take this in. And this is where I came up with the toolkit from. And it all really the foundation of the 4 steps that I've created with all of my programs. And I've just extended them out to 4 steps. Step one, introduction. Sit down with yourself, reintroduce yourself, as some of you may call it, or some need to introduce yourself because some never knew from the beginning. What was my core values? What was the things that make me tick? Not parents, not how I was raised, not what the job says. What are the things that embodies me? Get in touch with that. And then after that, start breaking part two, start breaking those habits that you was continuing in the first step. Stop breaking those things that don't agree with you. Start breaking those things that you're doing that's bringing you down, that's not elevating you. And then from that, you got to replace a habit with a habit, or at least that's what I've been told. Step three, move forward. Start supplementing yourself or feeding yourself and encouraging yourself and empowering yourself with the things that make self better, because I can't tell you how good you are if you don't believe how good you are. You know how many people I work with have been outstanding on the outside with things they produce, and on the inside they're an empty shell. They don't even believe in the stuff that they're producing, but they are producing it. So when you do that, start filling yourself up with start going to get that octane gas and stop buying that cheap gas. That's what I mean for the full up. And after that, it's the breakthrough. The breakthrough is to just turn around, take evaluation of the steps you've made, the progress you've made on the journey, absorb it, take it in, and then you go back to step one again. I just got 4 simple steps. I can't put it to you no plainer. That's what I work through. That's what I walk through. That's what I walk people through. And that's what my clients expect me to do for them. That's what I do. Man, I got you. I got you
I
speechless.
know.
I can.
I was speechless. I was speechless and on mute for those who don't have video. I was on mute. But I want to
Oh,
go a little into that because when you did the vulnerability toolkit, you
mhm.
started from a space that you wanted to reach those who were employees. Maybe they
Yeah.
didn't feel like they had control, the small business owners.
Mhm,
And then now then you saw this need open up in the
mhm,
C-suite, where
mhm.
more and more leaders were saying, well, they don't know how to get vulnerable, they don't know what to do, or it's not encouraged. So how have you seen, I guess, a change, or why do you think that change and that shift for a lot of the C-suite leaders have really started to push them towards they need to learn more about vulnerability and how they can actually be actively showcasing that, and of course
Yeah,
encouraging it for those
for the
underneath them?
others. I think a lot of it was two places, haves and have-nots. A lot of the haves through this pandemic and losses of became have-nots. So when you don't have something, there becomes something in you to try to get that back, replace it, or put something in there that takes the place of it. And I think this is where the leaders got, and that's where my transition came from. Because I was in leadership, talking about what the employees need from the door. I don't think even in McDonald's, in my job in high school, I think, well, I worked. My first job was White Castle, where I really had to pay taxes beside the paper route. I worked at White Castle sweeping out the dining room because I was too young to really work any of the grill items. But I take that same mentality in there. I was only there one summer and I was promoted to fries. And I was like, ooh, oh, I'm fries. I come on like I'm fries. I'm big king of the hill. But I think the advocating for has always been a part of me, the advocating for those who, that's why I wanted to go to law school. That's why I'm in school. That's why I'm learning. That's why I took up and studying civil rights. Not for the aspect of going out there and standing marching with anyone, but I wanted to educate those who came in my path what rights that you had and how you can invoke those, how you're protected by those, and how you could be understanding those and articulate those. That's really why I went into the law field. It wasn't to sit in front of the courts and get the big cases and be in front of everybody's house after African American got shot. No snipes, no judgments on nobody. Just use it as an example. That wasn't the course I said, because when I said that, a lot of people was like, "Oh, so you're gonna be like Ben Crump?" And you, no, that's not my aspiration. He's doing a wonderful thing, and I applaud him. But that wasn't me. I wanted people to understand they're just civil liberties. I just wanted people that us brown skin minorities understand what our liberties was, and that's where that passion came from. So when I look at leaders today, I see that same thing. I see leaders who were sitting in places before the pandemic are not in those same places. And if they're sitting in those places, it's not as comfortable as it was. So, how they want to get the comfort, they have to deal with the underling. And that's how it's always been. That's how it's always been. The disconnect was always in the elevator because they got the C-suite elevators, right? That's where the disconnect was. And if you was an employee, your key didn't work going past that level. But
You didn't get
now,
a key. You
yeah,
didn't
yeah,
even know the
or
elevator existed. What you
you,
saying?
you didn't know that, but see, now it's coming to the point of now they're seeing that it has to be a collective effort, and my
Mm.
name can't shine because they fail to realize that you the reason that the bulb on their name is on, right? Because you're the employee. You are the reason that when they put it on and click the switch in the morning, someone could see their name. They're realizing now when wasn't nobody down there turning on the switch, they name didn't mean nothing on the side of the building because could nobody read it. It wasn't illuminated. So with that, I start seeing a lot of C-suite people saying, you know what? And not all, I don't never like the blanket, but I saw a lot of them say, you know what? I think they had a point. I think they was correct. I think things need to change. And sometimes experience is the best teacher. Sometimes you have to lose things to gain things. And when that happens, a lot of people said, okay, we had all of these people with these high level numbers. I think it's about 80. I think entrepreneurship went up about 800% over the past 2 years.
Yeah,
Now,
yeah.
numbers wise, I don't know what that means, but 800%, that's a lot of people saying, I'm going to do this my way.
Well, we after we had our chat with our friend Mr. Martin Pratt.
Yes, yes.
I was seeing more numbers. I was looking at more things, and
Hmm.
Black women, especially, were really leading the charge of starting these businesses up again.
Yes. Yes,
So
it
it's
was.
like, you have to really take that into account, that the small person, they seem small to you because they're not in the C-suite, but
Mhm.
those ideas that they're formulating and they want to share with you, when you kick back and say, well, you know, I don't know about that. Or you might have someone in your C-suite camp that takes ideas from those that are working under them and don't give them the credit. That all
Ooh,
trickles back. That
man, wait a
trickles
minute.
back. And when
Wait.
I say salty exists in
Ooh.
those corporations, they
Mm-mm.
exist for a reason. People don't just wake up one morning and say, "You know what? I want to be salty at work today." No. Things happen, especially if you have there's a lot of employees, and even in the C-suite space, who are not getting their just acknowledgments, and they sit there and it stews and it just simmers and simmers until it gets to that boil. And we've
Mhm.
all seen when someone's gotten to a boiling point at the office space, and they just blow up.
That's it.
Most of us will be like, "Oh, we saw that coming." Others will be like, "Well, I don't even know what's going on."
What happened?
Right? What happened? So the fact that you can allow people to be vulnerable, and that's been another thing that we can credit to this whole, sit down moment. That's what we
Mhm.
got at the pandemic. We all had to sit down.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
so from that sit down moment, we were expressed, or we were forced to express how we felt. And a lot of people are now home sitting with those feelings. They're probably in a situation where they don't like where they are, and
Mhm.
they had to really figure out, okay, why am I feeling this way? Depressions came about for those who didn't have it before, or maybe it wasn't as visible. It started to really come to the surface. So a lot of things that were simmering really boiled to the surface at that point. So with vulnerability, how have you seen people really take it by the horn and say, you know what, I'm going to own it now. I'm not going to allow vulnerability to run me and run my emotions. I'm going to actually own this and then make something out of this.
I've been seeing a real uptake of that, and then I've been seeing the C-suite is take a plunge, right? Everything is about taking. I'm seeing now a competitive push. I want to be the next CEO to do this. I want to be the one that stands out in front of this for my company, right? You're not sure of the motives. Time will tell. But what we are seeing is an activation of manifestation of people want to do things differently. And this is the push that has always been the push, right? It's always been the people in the crowd pushing, but there's always been the gate blocking. And I think now the gate is starting to come down. So now it's no more pushing, it's a flow. And we're starting to get flows from CEOs to say, okay, we're not moving until this happens. The negotiations are getting tougher. I was talking to some recruiters, man. It's like people is coming with these lists like, this is what I want. If you're not hiring, you're not putting that in, lose my resume. I'm like, wow. Have you ever been in a time where the employee has been such empowered, where we had that power to say, I got my mind go back to the Malcolm X movie, right? When Malcolm do the little thing and turn and the crowd walk off. The police say that's too much power for one man. But this is how it is right now in the essence of the workforce, which has always been the case, but but we didn't have the voice. Now the voice has accompanied the work and the value, and we're saying we're not going to take it anymore. And this is where I'm seeing a lot of the C-suite, a lot of the leaders. Even I would even go down to the leader with little teams and little departments that they're over. How can I better engage my department? How can I get them to buy in? I'm getting these kind of questions now? How can I said, did you pay them any attention before 2019? And some people look at me and they might say, "Yeah, you kind of a smart, wise guy." It's not that. You have to ask yourself these serious questions because employees
Hmm.
have been asking themselves these questions for years, and you have not heard from them. So now they're at a point of saying, "It's just like I got the gun and I'm gonna stick you up. You don't have the gun no more, right?" So what happens when the person is holding the gun on somebody else that doesn't have one? How do they feel? They feel empowered. And I know that was a graphic description, but I wanted you to get the point. This is how employees think now. So in the essence of that, the negotiation is going to have to be the key. And the first thing they'll say is, "I want it like I want it." J.G. Whitworth said it right. It's my money and I want it now. So That's how employees are saying, I want to work from home. I want to be hybrid. My kid is still home. Maybe I don't feel the greatest about sending them back to school. With the pandemic, we really don't know where it's going. Sometimes the numbers dip, sometimes they get higher. So I want some comfortability to say, I'll produce for you, but I'll produce for you in my environment. And if you're
Right.
not coming to the steps or plate with that, people saying, step. I think they said that in the 80s, right? Step.
Oh my gosh.
Uh,
I would even say with a lot of what's going on, I want to take it to the men, right?
okay.
You've always been an advocate that vulnerability men should be comfortable being uncomfortable,
Hmm.
and even though most of the conversation you have, you don't generalize it. I want to
Hmm.
take it to the men because a lot of times, especially in a leadership position, there's a lot of men who are holding those positions down for the most part. How have they been in terms of receiving this and saying to themselves, okay, this is something we need to do. We need to lead this. We need to either lead it from behind or empower our other people to come in and do it, and we're not going to push back, or we're not doing it for facade. We're doing it because we actually mean it, because that's something else. There's a
Yeah.
lot of mouth action happening and
Woo.
nothing else. There's
Man.
all this yammer and yammer, but nobody's really following through. So, how have you seen the men step up and say, you know what, this is what we're going to do, and we're going to make sure it follows through? So, this is not going to be one of those BS initiatives. We're going to make sure it goes all the way.
Um, Men are now going through the X-ray machines, and when I say that, I'm saying that people are spotting it. People used to give you that little leash to have you play those games. The leash is gone, bro. So a lot of men I'm seeing they're either stepping into it full force or they're pushing those that are leading the way. Some men have not got to the point in place where they can be a mouthpiece. They're just not there yet. Symbolically, systematically, how they've been raised, they have not overcome that hurdle. I won't say it's a struggle. I'll just say it's a hurdle. They haven't overcome that, and they're not comfortable being pliable in those positions and situations. But they are behind the movement, and it is a movement. Vulnerability and leadership is a movement. You heard it from me here first. It's a movement, regardless of what being kind of like picturized with the men. There are a lot of men that are standing up in their vulnerability, sharing the things that they never would have. First and foremost, because it come from a figure with the men. Why it's so hard, especially in our community, been placed upon us that we have to bear everything, right? And in bearing everything, there cannot be no sign of weakness. And it's so with that being that, I mean, we've been with this macho-ness for a long time. My African tribe, my kingdom, all of these things have been from a place of power and might. Well, there's a lot of kings I know have vulnerability issues, right? Everybody has them. Nobody has cornered the market on it. Nobody's getting away from it. It's how you embrace them will be ultimately your legacy. How did I do this? That's one thing that always moved me with King. No, I have any problem with Mark. I mean, I have any problem with Malcolm. Malcolm did his thing, and I'm proud of the work he did. Malcolm came out to bust heads. Diplomatically, y'all, we not in that position. So I agree with a lot of Martin premises. Though we took some butt whoopings in that, we took some steps in that. It's an essence of how you deal with it, and it's the essence of how you embrace it. And men, we don't have to do everything strong arm. We really don't. We have people. We have women that's behind us, beside us. I'm saying we have those that want to push us and elevate us into these places, but we have to bring them along. We can't do it
Hmm.
in silence. We can't suffer in silence with the things that we don't want to discuss. It can't just be barbershop talk anymore. It has to be those things shared with those that you trust to share it with. And in that, you'll find the power. You'd be surprised how many people want to help you out. Man, when I started asking for help, people was there. Yo, why you ain't ask me earlier? People got mad. What took you so long? What you waiting on? I always saw that. I always saw you struggling. I just wait for your hard head to say something. Yeah, I got it, man. I got it. It's a hard thing and it's a battle for us because we want to be macho. It started when we was kids, falling off the bike. What your dad say? Boy, get up. You know, crying. Wipe yourself off.
Hmm.
Wrong. Crying release, crying release
Yeah.
stress. That's why you cry. What you think? God gave you tears just for you to? I ain't gonna cry. That's a release, and it ain't just for the women. There's some brothers out there that need a real good cry, a real good let it out, a real good
Hmm.
hug. I'm air hugging you, brothers, right now, for real, because I know you need it.
Yes, and I also want to say, there's some writings that show and
Mhm.
some conversations around that Malcolm and Martin, they both kind of flipped a little bit towards the end
They
of
did.
their journeys. They, and not flipped like they stopped believing what they did before. No,
Mm.
but they just started to almost switch sides a little
Change,
bit
yeah, kind of changed because
to
Martin
to
got tired of taking the beatings, and Malcolm was like, maybe we should talk about this a little more. When
Maybe,
he saw the inside of things,
we shouldn't jump too fast. Let's
yeah,
see what's going on. But I mean, I just wanted to bring that out because sometimes there's not just one way,
yeah,
and it's okay if you switch gears and do things. But I
absolutely,
think what they both showed in doing that was their vulnerability and saying, you know what,
absolutely.
I should take a second look. Maybe my way wasn't the only opportunity to make a change and do something different. So that's why I went back to that. But even with you, when you're saying that, you know, a lot of men need that time to just release and let it out. How can that happen when they're in corporate? Because especially being a corporate leader, we're looking at you like, yeah, you know, even if the ship is going down, we need somebody to like rally us up or tell us the truth.
Hmm.
What would that look like for, and from a leadership standpoint? Because we're kind of tired. We're tired of these surveys. People asking us our emotion. How do we feel? What's the survey? How do you like what we're doing? And people say we don't like it. Great. Thank you for the survey. I'm like, what? Are you not listening? So how do we get past the tone deafness of other people telling us, look, this is the feedback, and allowing ourselves to be vulnerable enough to say, okay, all right, maybe there's something that I'm missing. Okay, how could we do that, especially from the leadership point of view? Because that's a lot of people who you've been seeing the most lately, right?
Hmm. Take down the facade. The best way that you can get people to buy in is to be genuine. It's no shortcuts. It's none. I think the empowerment that I have in what I do is because I've been doing it all along. So I've already seen, I've already went through the buckles, I already went through the training other people to take my job. I've already been through sharing a dream, sharing not a dream, I did share a dream, but sharing the idea and having John tell the bosses in the meeting hit that idea. Yeah, I've been through a lot of that, right? I've sucked it up. I've trained people so good
Hmm.
to do jobs. I've even left them a notebook on how to do that job if they were out and someone came in to take their place. This is how thorough I was with giving information and training. I've trained those people to take jobs that I thought I was getting that were
Right.
leapfrogged over me. So I've been through a lot of situations that say, man, when is the anger there? It never manifested well with me. And when you do that and when you understand that, then that becomes the power because I'm not an angry black man. Never will be.
Hmm.
I stand on what I believe and I fight for what I believe, but I'm not an angry black man. And I'm not that, and you're not going to title me as that. When we go into leadership, a lot of times, even, and this is for all men, when we go into leaderships, there's this premise of the strength that we have to have. And that's absolutely true. We have to, but we are strongest in our weakest moments. That's
Hmm.
something that you should really let sink. We are strongest in our weakest moments. But there's a caveat to that. When we have the opportunity to look for the strength, we don't look for it in the strength. We carry on, we cover up, we hide, we blame, we point fingers. These are
Right.
the things that's continuously to be our demise. Because when that moment of weakness, that I'm strong enough to identify I can't handle that piece. And I've got an employee that can.
Hmm.
Let's empower that employee to feel that. Now, two things happen with that. First and foremost, you have given way for an employee to be innovative, creative, and to provide more value that they've been doing. And not only that, you've garnered the respect of those that you're leading for someone that's aware of, self aware of, and understanding the people that they're leading. Because a lot of times we get title and we don't know who we're leading. You just want the title because
Wow.
it pay more. You have no idea of the people you're leading. So
Hmm.
when we embrace that, then there's an understanding. Then you could be that person at the job because people respect you. I'm not really feeling it today, guys. I tell you what, I'll meet with everybody. Let's do after lunch this morning. Let me kind of get myself together. See, we won't be real with people like that. Let me
Hmm.
get myself together. I had a horrible day, almost got drove off the road rage or whatever. Let me inhale, exhale, and then after lunch, let's formulate, let's get a plan, let's work on it. Man, you got the whole office talking about, yo, that's power right there. So when I come in and Johnny then gave me a hard night and I ain't have get no sleep, he ain't gonna kill me because I ain't got these reports done. You're opening the
Right.
door. You're creating that culture that people want to be around. And that's what makes it easier for you to say, I don't know all the answers.
Hmm. Now, and as we wind down, because I want
It's
to make
been
sure
good. This
folks.
been good. I like
Huh?
this. It's been good.
I know, right? I was like,
I,
yay!
I, I like being a
Um,
guest. I like being a guest where I don't have to be asking the questions. I like that. I like that.
um,
Mm.
so I want to take it to the person who is listening to their leader. Their leader seems like they changing up, they trying to change up, and they're
Mhm.
saying, "Hey guys, I'm here. Let me know." How can those employees, those partners, those fellow leaders, how can they not only support the leadership, the C-suite coming into the vulnerability space and allow and helping them create that safety zone? How can they really step up and do that with them? Because it's not a one person
Right.
job, right? This is everybody needs to put pitch in. So if the leader is saying, "Hey, I'm trying to be more respectful. I'm trying to allow you guys to be vulnerable and be in a space where you can come to me and say, or come to your managers or whoever and say, look, I need this extra time. I need this extra help." But how can we support that movement, help with that movement without taking advantage or without shortchanging that movement? And when I say shortchange, I mean, people give half-hearted answers. Oh, well, I want extra days off. Ciao, bye. Nobody don't need no more extra days off. What we need is how can you say, okay, I need more support from my team without me having to say, hey team, who's available? No, everybody sees stuff coming in. It's a team working space. That's what a lot of these companies are pushing. Team collaborations and all this kind of stuff. So how can we not shortchange leadership when we give them proper answers? How can we give them those proper answers? What should we be doing to formulate and helping create those safe spaces?
From the avenue, I'll take it from both avenues. From the avenue of uh, the employee, uh, it's not really on them. And I'll say this, it's probably going to cause a little friction, but I'm going to put it out there. It's not really on the employee to create the culture. You invited that
But
employee,
not the culture, but if the culture is in the midst of changing,
so they're
we still
transforming it.
need we still need we still need the community to tell us what do they want
Hmm.
that culture to look like. So how can the community now reflect that or speak that into existence in a meaningful and productive way? Because sometimes we shortchange ourselves because either we reach for the low bar, right? Because we think like our thoughts might not get done. We might think, oh, that's too far fetched. We want a brand new machine that has nothing but glucose free snacks, and I think that's just gonna be too much. But regardless, like how can we really get that space? Um,
Uh, it's communication and trust, and all of those things are. I spoke about the culture because it's important. Because the culture is different in every individual organization, and when you're changing the culture, it takes communication. That's the key to the change. It's not so much about what I'm gonna get now because we changing. Because a lot of times we think stuff changes, we think that's somebody opened the bank. Oh, okay. Oh, you changed it. We changed everything. A lot of times when the culture changed, the policies and procedures they get tweaked. Or a lot of times I've seen the policies and procedures are actually being followed. They're already in the culture, but they've been ignored because certain ones have ignored it for so long, you think that's the culture. But if you look into the bylaws of a lot of corporations, they have a lot of these things in place to protect the employees. But leaders that have been placed in charge is just like if you have crooked police. The law is already out there to enforce and what not to enforce. But when you have particular ones with authority, they can enforce with whom, by whom they please. This is what we've ran into in the culture. So now you say we're going to change it. The communication has to continue even more verbally. Not so much as what I can get, but the communication has to be for the whole. Because you may have been at this job a couple years. Got Johnny been suffering 10, 15 years in this culture. He probably got a Christmas list that he want, but you have to look at it from a point and say, okay, collectively, what can bring about the change that we all can benefit from this point on? I can't get the retribution. I can't get the back pay. I know you're looking for it in the culture. When it changed, the transformation, man, Molly been working here 20 years, and Molly that felt like we needed a refrigerator and a microwave, and we ain't had it. Well, Molly, that change don't necessarily mean they go out and purchase that from Home Depot tomorrow. What the change mean is that substantially, when we going forward, others will reap the benefits of this. This is really the example what we were just talking about with King and Martin. I mean, with Martin and Malcolm, they didn't necessarily reap the benefits of their work, but we are the descendants of, and that's how you have to look at it when the culture changes at your job. You have to look at it as if we're saying, okay, what can be the betterment of all of us over the longevity of it? Because there have been some points and places where different one of us has came into this at different times, and we're going to have a wish list that we want Santa to fulfill, but it's not going to happen. And how you do that as leadership, you continue to create that culture of vulnerability with the conversation. You acknowledge how you feel, you acknowledge how your people feel, and you share those feelings with them. You listen to them innately, listen
Mhm.
to them, ask questions, even if they said certain things. Get to the whys. Why do you want that? Why do you think that's possible? Why do you feel we need that? Have them explain and expound on some of these ways that they're feeling. And then make the changes pretty much based on how you can do it. Incremental and be forthright and stand on what you can do. If you can't make that change, do not lead anybody along. We all about building trust now. The culture is changing. So I'm gonna say, look, if I can't do that, I'm gonna see what we can do that's comparative to that. If we can't have this here, I'm gonna see what we can have that will make working here better for you. That's it. And leaders, please do not get offensive when people talking to you. Be okay with having those uncomfortable conversations because people is, like a better word, mad, and be patient with the changes. Whether you're on either
Mm.
side, corporate, be patient with making an increment in those changes. Employees, be patient for those changes to take effect and be part of your new culture. So that's my
All
class
right.
today, guys.
And on that note, on that note, I just want to make sure that folks see that they can join and
Yes.
go get the vulnerability toolkit. Head on over to callshawnwatkins.com/vulnerability and
Yes.
get your toolkit. Now, is this a download that they catching? What they catching
This
at this toolkit?
this is my technical my IT department still working on how we doing this, right? No,
Are we?
this is I love to put on the spot with the IT department. See, that's some of the benefits and some of the I won't say benefits and some of the bad things for working with somebody who know what you're supposed to be doing, right? Uh, this is going to be. I'm in the midst of doing this. It's one way that I really want to do it, and I've been in a few Zoom settings, and I really want to do it in that setting. So I think that's more so I'm leaning toward that toolkit because I want to put it in an environment that's closed, psychologically safe. people feel safe with sharing. And I also want to keep it that it's confidential so people won't come out of that place feeling that they can go talk about everything that's in there. A lot of times when you do those kind of things like in coursework and stuff like that, which eventually that's going to be in there, because I got this master class coming up too. I didn't tell my IT department about it, but I got a master class coming up, and I'm looking at a format on how to do this. I want to do a 90-minute. It's just been in my heart to do for such a long period of time,
Mm.
but I think the timing now is right. And when I wanted to do it back before, it just wasn't that time. But
Mm.
I've been revisiting that, especially with some calls that I've had with some C-suite people I had, and I want to do this master class, and I'm going to do it in the essence of interactive. It's not going to be a college course where I'm just going to be doing all the talking. So that's what's going to be the difference. It's going to be a
And that's
master
usually
class.
what, yes, that's usually what makes the difference is when you put
Yes.
that work in,
Put it
when
in.
you
I
do that
did.
work.
I put it in. I put it in. I put it. I can't even talk about Brene Brown no more. She put it in. I mean, she did her research. She did her interviews. She did.
Mhm.
I still have to chime at her. I still think about LL Cool J, the '90s rap battles, '80s rap battles. You know what I mean? I'm the king of rock. What they do? They called out their competitive rapper, right? So you know what, Brene, come see me. Come see me on me. No, I'm just
Oh
kidding.
Lord. Taking it to the rap streets. Okay.
Take that to the vulnerability streets, boy. The V, come
Oh
see
my
me.
goodness.
No, but
But
all
I,
in
I, I
fun.
wanna I want to definitely thank you
Oh,
for
thank you
coming
for
through
having me.
because
I
this
appreciate it.
this is a this is a topic that no one really talks about, especially
Yes.
for websites. I always have clients that don't know how to express themselves, and I think
Mhm.
your website should be one of the places you feel safe to be
Yes.
vulnerable, and it doesn't mean what they think. And I would love to have you back to talk about the difference of vulnerability and what
Yes.
does it look like, especially because we did an amazing series about
Series on that.
understanding vulnerability. So I think we should just touch on a couple of those
Yes.
topics.
Yes. Look,
So
we gonna keep
we'll
this
definitely
going.
connect.
We
Yes, we'll
gonna keep
definitely connect to
we gonna
see what
keep this
that is.
going until they put us on the TV screen, y'all. I'm putting the feelers. I'm putting the feelers out there. A lot of people say, "Man, you should be trying to get a sponsor." I'm trying to get a corporation to put me out there, put us out there, because we doing some
Mm.
great things. So y'all, if y'all out there looking, y'all can DM me. I know y'all big level people don't like to put it in the comments. I already feel you. Come and DM me. I got a place for you. I got a place for you. You need people on your network like us. I'm serious. You really do. You really do. But anyway,
Man, well,
that's
I
what
say, well,
I will pitch that. I need
yes,
to be on the
yes.
network. I will pitch that. Absolutely.
So I want to say thank you again for
Thank you.
everybody for
Appreciate
listening.
it.
Thank you again for coming through. And we've been Transform Clicks to Profit, the podcast. You can definitely check out the replays at transformclickstoprofit.com/LinkedIn and follow us there. Find information there. We're trying to get that up so we can stream directly from there, and that's
Mhm.
our LinkedIn page. So connect with us, and we are excited to keep this going. Can't wait to see y'all, and make sure that you listen to the podcast on your favorite podcast channels because we there too. Bye, y'all.
Yes, we are on the podcast. Bye, y'all.